So this morning, it's a very, of course, you can understand very easily, it's a very special conference. We are very, very lucky to welcome Neil Harbisson. Neil Harbisson is a Catalan-raised, British-born contemporary artist and cyborg activist, best known for having an antenna implanted in his skull and for being officially recognized as a cyborg by the government. The antenna allows him to perceive visible and invisible colors such as infrared and ultraviolet via sound waves. The antenna's internet connections allows him to receive colors from space as well as images, video, music, or phone calls directly into his head via external devices such as mobile phones or satellites. In 2010, he co-founded the Cyborg Foundation with Moon Ribas, an international organization that aims to help humans become cyborgs, defend cyborg rights, and promote cyborgism as a social and artistic movement. The first I heard about Neil Harbisson, and because, of course, as a professor of innovation, and especially responsible innovation, I heard about him concerning what we call it the transhumanism. But transhumanism is not just a theory, it's a reality today. Please welcome very warmly Mr. Neil Harbisson for accepting our invitations and being here with us today. Thank you very much.
Well, I was born with an unusual visual condition called achromatism, which is total colorblindness. So I've never seen blue, I've never seen yellow, I've never seen pink. Color is an invisible energy that I've never actually seen. So when I was a child, I was interested in color because color is extremely popular. Even if you don't see color, you can't ignore that color exists because there's many things, daily elements that contain color words. So I kept hearing color words every single day of my life, like yellow pages, green peas, red cross, orange, Bluetooth, green car, the Pink Panther, Red Bull, the yellow submarine, James Brown, it's in his surname. Also Greenland, a huge country. So color kept appearing daily in many different subjects. Also when color is used as a code, it can be confusing. Hot water and cold water sometimes only uses color codes. Or like maps, some maps only use color codes as well. This is fine, but if I go to Tokyo, I can get easily lost because some maps only use color codes. And then also there's this situation where three countries share exactly the same flag. So your country's flag looks exactly the same as Italy's or Ireland's flag. So for me, you share exactly the same flag. So philosophically, it's beautiful, but it was quite confusing when I was growing up. Also, if people use color when they describe things, like if someone asked me, have you seen a man with ginger hair, blue eyes, and dressed in pink, I would have no idea, because the only information I get here is that the man has hair, that he has eyes, and that he's not naked. So the reason why I wanted to sense color was not because I wanted to sense the beauty of color, but because I wanted to have this social element in my life. So when I was studying music, I decided I would study music because I thought that music would have no color. I also decided I would study the piano because it's a black and white instrument, so it has no color as well. But then when I was studying music theory, I realized that there's many theories that relate color and sound. Like Newton created this scale from the colors to musical notes, and after him there's been many more theories. Before him there was also other theories. But there's always been this search of finding a connection between color and sound. And now we can actually tell that there is a relationship. Both colors and sounds are frequencies. Color is a light frequency and sound is an audible frequency. So they both have something in common, which is frequency. So when I was studying music, we thought, why don't we create a third eye that allows me to actually hear the light frequencies? So if we could hear the light frequency of red, what note would we hear? Or if we could hear the light frequency of blue, what note would we hear? So that was what we worked on in 2003. And the first prototype was a webcam connected to a 5-kilo computer with a software that detected the light frequency in front of me and then scaled it down to the audible note. So then I would be able to hear the sound of red, the sound of blue, the sound of orange. And at the beginning, I had 6 colors, one for each, like I had the sound of red, orange, green, blue, and then when I got used to these colors, we added more colors, and then we kept upgrading the software until after 3 years I got to 360 different notes for 360 degrees of the color wheel. And this is how I hear color. So when you transpose light frequencies to sound, it's extremely microtonal. So going from red to orange is like going from F to F sharp. So in a semitone, you have 30 microtones. As you can hear, it's extremely close, but you can actually hear the difference. And it took me 3 years to differentiate these microtones. I chose I would hear it through a sine wave, which is a pure wave. I didn't want the color to have any character. I wanted it to be as pure as possible. And at the beginning, it was actually chaotic, and I had strong headaches, because wherever I looked, there's color. So I kept hearing electronic sounds wherever I looked. So in 2004, I had strong headaches, and it took me 5 months for the headaches to go away and for my brain to get used to all this new input. So after 5 months, it became normal to hear color, and it started to become a perception, and then it started to become a feeling. I started to have favorite colors through sound. So this gives me the property of hue, but then color also has the property of saturation, which I couldn't sense. And that's what we added in 2007, different volume levels depending on the saturation. So if a color is very alive, I hear it louder. If the color is gray, grayish, I hear it in a lower volume. So when I was able to sense all the visual colors, I didn't see why I should stop there, because there's many more colors around us that we humans cannot sense, like ultraviolets and infrareds, but technology can sense these colors. So I didn't see why I should stop there. So in 2008, I extended the color perception beyond human vision, and I included infrared and ultraviolet. So near infrared allows me to detect if there's movement sensors in a room. So if I go to a shop or a bank, I can tell if the alarms are on or off. And in many cases, they are off. So it's interesting to detect that sometimes you see alarms that are actually not working at all. Also, ultraviolet allows me to detect if it's a good day or a bad day to sunbathe, because if I sense that there's a lot of ultraviolet, then I know I should kind of protect my skin, or I shouldn't sunbathe. So these two colors give me information that other visual colors don't actually give me. And the aim is to continuously extend my color perception beyond ultraviolet and infrared. So as the years go by, the sensor is extending, and then the aim is to go to radio waves, X-rays, and even gamma rays. So this is the pure sonochromatic scale. Now it's a straight line. It's no longer a circle, but a straight line that can continuously be extended. So I started expressing myself through this new sense. As soon as I was able to hear color, I no longer had to play an instrument. I could play colors. So I started painting pianos instead of playing pianos. By using colors on a piano, I could actually transmit the colors from my antenna to the audience, and then the audience could hear the sound of color through using the piano as a canvas. Also, I was able to use colors to activate pianos. So if I wanted the piano to play the color blue, I would put blue on the piano, and the piano had an antenna, and then the piano would play C sharp. Or if I wanted the piano to play F sharp, I would put orange in front of the piano, and the piano would play orange. So I was able also to transform a piano into a cybernetic organism, and then I was able to play the piano through color. So the piano was actually playing the pianist. In this case, the piano was playing my yellow sock. So also, the way I ended my university course of music was handing in color paintings. I didn't hand in music, but color. So to me, this was my new reality, where painting was actually music. So the final composition handout was like the final music composition of my degree was actually a color-painted book. So that's the sense of color. But then I wanted to have a new body part to sense color. I didn't want to use an existing body part. I didn't want to use glasses, because that would be using my sight. I didn't want to use my ears. I didn't want to use headphones to perceive color. I wanted an independent organ that would allow me to sense color, and I didn't have that. So first of all, I thought of creating a third eye that would go implanted in the center of my front, but then I realized that this would limit my sense of color to only what I would have in front. So then I looked at nature and I saw that many animals have antennas, and I thought, why not create a human antenna that allows me to sense color independently from my other organs and have a completely independent sense an organ for color. So I thought about antennas because that would give me 360-degree perception of color. If I want to sense the colors behind, I don't need to turn around. I can turn the antenna around. So the first thing was designing the antenna and also perceiving color through bone conduction, not through my ears. Bone allows you to receive external input through vibrations that then become sounds. So I wanted to have an antenna implanted in my skull that would give me vibrations depending on the color frequencies, and these vibrations would become sounds in my inner ears. So when the antenna was finally designed, I went to a doctor and I said that I wanted an antenna implant, and they said, sorry, we don't do this, and you won't actually be able to have an antenna implanted surgically in a hospital because you have to go through a bioethical committee. So I went to a bioethical committee, I proposed the operation, and I said I wanted this type of antenna, the cetaceous one, which is more it's the type of antenna that would work better for color. And then they said that they would have to decide. Then they decided, and they said no, because this was not ethical for the bioethical committee for 3 reasons. One, it goes beyond human perception, which this for them is not ethical. The second thing is that they weren't sure about the dangers of having cybernetics inside the body. And also the third one was that they were worried about the image the hospital would have if someone came out of the hospital with an antenna sticking out of the head. They were really worried about this. So they said no. But then I tried to find a doctor willing to do the surgery anonymously, and I found one, and then we did the operation. So basically, I found a doctor, and then we drilled the head. This is my head facing down. So first we took out some hair, then we reduced the skin to avoid possible infections, and then the head was drilled 4 times, so we would have 4 different inputs. 2 implants to hold the structure of the antenna. One other implant is the chip that vibrates depending on the light frequencies. And the 4th implant is internet connection so that I can receive colors from other parts of the world or from satellites. So basically it's 4 different implants that come out as one antenna. The surgery was meant to take 45 minutes, but it took over 3 hours. And then we closed it, and then it took 2 months for the antenna and the bone to merge. So osseointegration took around 2 months, and then after 2 months, the antenna was completely fixed in the head. So now if someone pulls the antenna, it's impossible for it to move because it's like pulling an arm. But I actually created this skin on top, because if someone does pull, then the skin comes off. So it's a type of like snakes. Some snakes have this type of skin that comes off if someone pulls them. Sometimes it happens that people try to pull the antenna, especially drunk women late at night. They try to pull the antenna. So it's good to have this protection. So the internet connection allows me to receive colors from different continents. Now there's 5 people, 1 in each continent, that have permission to send colors to my head. So there's if there's a sunset in Australia, my friend from Australia can actually use the mobile phone to stream live images of the sunset to my head. So I would be here, but I would be feeling a sunset as if there was a sunset in front of me. So in a way, I feel that now I have eyes in different continents. So it's a way of extending my sense of color beyond my surroundings, and it's a way of using the internet as a sense. So my brain has changed in many ways. Now this is an MRI scan of my brain. When I sleep, the brain creates electronic sounds. So I feel no difference between the software and my brain anymore. And when this started happening is when I felt cyborg, when I felt the union between cybernetics and organism, is when I stopped feeling the difference between the software and my brain. And this happens especially when I sleep, because when I sleep, I hear these electronic sounds just as if the software was creating them. So this is when I started feeling this inseparable union. In 2004, I had a problem with the UK government because I have a British passport and they didn't allow me to renew it because I sent the submission and there was a picture with an electronic device, they said. So they said that there's a law that doesn't allow you to appear on passport photos with electronic devices. So I replied saying that this was not an electronic device. This was an extension of my senses and an extension of my body, and that they should allow it as part of my official image. And then they said, no, you have to remove this unless it's you prove it that it's part of you. And then I started convincing them that I felt that this was me, and I actually also asked my doctor to write a letter explaining that I felt that I was a cyborg, that I felt that I was a union between cybernetics and organism, and after some months they accepted it, and they allowed me to appear with the first prototype, which was still with cables, and this allowed me to travel for the first 10 years with this passport, because airport security is very annoying. Well, they are very protective with technology, so this helped me travel basically, and now I also have a new passport with the new antenna. Well, it keeps changing because whenever I renew the image of the antenna, I have to renew my passport. So my life has changed in many different ways, not only this type of daily things, but also the way I would dress. Before I would dress in a way that it would look good, but now I dress in a way that it sounds good. So I decide which notes I want to wear, and then I decide which chords I want to sound like. So if I want to sound C major, I would wear this color combination because it's 3 different notes that sound C major. If I want to dress in a minor chord, I would dress like this. So I would dress like this in a funeral because it's a sad chord. Or I can also dress as a melody. So depending on how you design clothes, then you can actually wear a song. This, for example, is an electronic music sound that I really liked. So I heard this music piece, and then I transposed it into color, and then I transposed it into a tie, so I can wear a song. Depending on how long you want the melody to be, the longer the tie. So if you want a longer melody, then you have a longer tie. You can also wear songs as dress. So we also created the wedding march as a dress, so the bride didn't have to pay for musicians because she was the wedding march as well as the bride. Also, the way I've changed the way I painted my house. So now my house is painted in different colors. So the main room is C major. The walls are painted so that when I go in, it sounds C major. The floor of the house is all red because red is the lowest frequency. So it gives a profound sound to the whole house. The kitchen is violet because at high pitch, it gives me alert. And then the ceilings are black and white because that's silent. So then I don't hear the sound of the ceiling when I lie down. Also, the bedroom has 3 different colors. One sounds B, the other one in the middle sounds E, and at the right it sounds D. So you have B, E, and D, the notes. That reads like bed, so it makes sense to have these 3 notes in the bedroom. The exit door is green because when I go out, I like to have a middle sound. Green is in the middle of the spectrum, so it's like a tuning fork. Before I go out of the street, I hear green, and this like tunes myself. And then the aim is that also in the bathroom there's just different melodies, so you can actually listen to different songs in the bathroom. So it's when you add a new sense, everything changes. Also, food changes, the way you perceive what you eat. In my case now, I can actually also compose music with food, because depending on how I distribute the food on a plate, I can eat my favorite song. So I'm working on creating a menu that you can go to a restaurant and ask which song you want to eat. I'm collaborating with Celia de Can Roca, which is now the best restaurant in the world, and we are presenting this month. At the end of this month, we are presenting the first sonochromatic dish, and we'll also present the food player, which will allow you to actually put the food on the dish player, food player, and then you turn around and then you can actually hear the sound of the food. We are going to present Beethoven's Ode of Joy as the first dish that we've transposed to food, but then you'll be able to choose different songs. So, for example, Lady Gaga as dessert, or some Vivaldi as main dish, because there's lots of different colors. This is an example of how I hear different fruit, vegetables, and objects. So now I can actually compose music by looking at things instead of playing an instrument. By just looking at different objects, I can compose music. I can amplify the sounds of my head with microphones, so that if I install a bone microphone in my head, the audience can hear the sounds that go into my head. And it's a way of creating color concerts. So it's changed the way I perceive supermarkets, because now it's like going to a nightclub when I go to a supermarket, because supermarkets have many different colors, especially the aisles with cleaning products. That's the most exciting area of a supermarket. Milk is silent. So white elements have no hue, so they're silent. And black, completely black elements are also silent. So I can only hear silence when there's no hue. It's not only supermarkets, it's also art. So if I go to an art gallery, I can listen to a Picasso, I can listen to an Andy Warhol. All painters have become composers now, and I can experience art in a completely different way. I can actually hear the scream, which is very microtonal. And Andy Warhol sounds very different because it's usually very saturated, so it's very high volume. So you can hear an Andy Warhol from the other side of the museum usually because it's very high volume. And then older paintings sound less saturated, so they're very silent. You have to get close to a Goya or a Velázquez or a Da Vinci. You have to get close to these type of drawings or paintings because they are less saturated. Another big change is the way I sense people, because now when I look at someone, I can listen to their face. So instead of drawing someone's face, what I like doing is getting close to someone's face and then writing down the sound of the eyes, the sound of the skin, the sound of the hair, the sound of the lips, and then I send them an MP3 of their face so that they can listen to themselves. And the first one I did was of Prince Charles, because he came to the university, and then I asked him if I could listen to his face, and this was his reaction when I asked him. But then I listened to his eyes, and then I wrote them down. And then since then, I've been doing different sound portraits. And each person sounds different. Like Judi Dench has silent hair, for example, because it's white like milk. James Cameron has a very high-pitched skin, so it's a shade of high pitch, unusual, especially his nose. Al Gore has different colored eyes, so different notes in each eye, because it's different shades of turquoise. So he has very melodic eyes. And then Tim Berners-Lee has an unusual sound of eyelids. Marina Abramovic is completely silent except her lips, which are very, very low and loud. Steve Reich has small melodies in his eyes because he has a type of pattern in his eyes, so there's music in his eyes. Steve Wozniak has a very green eyes, so it sounds like apples as well. Moby has one note less because he has no hair. Woody Allen sounds very unsaturated, like an old painting. Macaulay Culkin sounds like C major, almost a pure chord, so it's very unusual. Philip Glass, very microtonal. Bono has very loud glasses. And this is Buzz Aldrin, which I had a situation there where he wouldn't believe what I was telling him, so I had to show him the back. He didn't allow me to listen to his face unless I showed him the back. He looks very annoyed here, but afterwards I was able to listen to his face. This is a sound portrait, so you can hear how a face sounds like. So these are the 5 notes, and even twin brothers, they sound different. Even sometimes the left eye and the right eye sound slightly different. So it's almost impossible to find 2 people that sound exactly the same. What really surprised me after so many years of listening to faces is that people who say they're black, they're not actually black, and people who say they're white, they're not actually white. People who say they're black, they're actually very, very dark orange, and people who say they're white, they're actually very, very light orange as well. So the fact that people say that we are black and white is completely false. We are all orange. So this is a human color wheel based on the hue, which is different shades of orange. You can also create rhythms with faces. So what I like doing as well is face concerts where the audience cues and then I start playing someone's eyes and then I create a rhythm so it sounds more musical. Then someone else comes up and then I start playing the hair. So you can create a concert based on the colors of the audience. And then if the concert sounds really bad, it's their fault. It's not your fault. So the last face concert was actually done at Prince Albert's face, which he now uses as his ringtone. Also, city colors are a project where I traveled around Europe trying to detect the dominant color of cities, because people say their city is gray, but since I hear color, I detect it is completely false. Each city has dominant hues, and what I like doing is detecting the dominant color of each city. Madrid is amber terracotta, Lisbon is light yellow and turquoise, London is very red and yellow, and so on. The secondary effect, which we weren't expecting of hearing color, is that normal sounds also become colors. So when I hear sound, an electronic sound, I can also relate it to a color. And it started happening with music. If I listen to a melody, each note that I hear relates to a color. So I started painting what I hear. This is music transposed into color. So this is note by note from the center to the end of Mozart's Queen of the Night. So at the beginning, the melody starts, and then it ends at the very end of the painting. And this is Baby Baby by Justin Bieber, which looks very different from Mozart. It surprisingly comes out pink, so it's these are the Four Seasons by Vivaldi, each season in a corner, and this is John Cage 433, which is a silent piece. These are also speeches, so when we speak, we use different frequencies that relate to different colors, so we all have different colors when we speak. And what I like doing is transposing speeches into color, syllable by syllable from the center to the end. This is Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream, which comes out very between C and E, because he spoke between these notes. And this is a speech by Hitler, which has no dominant color, because he kept changing note to note in very small amounts of time, so it has a completely different output. This is an example. So it's syllable by syllable, and then when you do a whole speech, you can actually see the dominant color of someone's voice. This is also a car, accelerating car, transposed to color. So when you hear an accelerating car, it's like a rainbow, because it goes through all the color ranges. And also the sound palette, which is now used by musicians. So if you want to play music through color, then you can actually learn the different colors and then learn music through color. And then in the day of the concert, instead of reading a score, you read the colors that are projected on you. This is a concert we did at the Palau de la Música, where the musicians were actually playing the colors that I was projecting on them. And this is also a public sculpture where you can walk underneath, and then you can hear the colors of the public sculpture. So it's actually, people can download the app, an iBorg app that allows you to hear colors through your mobile phone, and then they walk underneath and they hear a melody under the sculpture. And at night, it changes color, so you can also use the app to listen to melodies through the color of the public sculpture. This is what happens at night. So you point your mobile phone at the structure, and then it keeps changing color, and then you hear different melodies. For the food player, we are also creating a new app that people will be able to download it, and then they'll be able to create food that sounds good at home. This will be out this month, at the end of this month. So my life has changed in many ways, because since 2004, I've been stopped by strangers asking what this was. So one thing is changing your life so that you can sense colors, but then the other world is the way you go out in the street, and this creates an interaction with strangers that you don't really want sometimes. So I've been stopped every single day since 2004, and it's changed the way people react. But in 2004, people thought that this was a light, so they thought I had a reading light in my head. In 2005-06, people started thinking it was some kind of microphone for chats, for web chats. In 2007-08, people thought it was some kind of Bluetooth phone, like taxi drivers started having this, so they thought it was some kind of phone. In 2009, people thought it was a GoPro camera. In 2011-12, people started to think it was something to do with Google Glass. And now the last thing is a boy asked me if it was some kind of selfie stick that could be extended. So the reaction of people keeps changing, but it's still not happening that people think it's simply an antenna that allows me to extend my senses. And this is what I hope we'll start seeing in the 2020s. We'll start seeing more people with new body parts, more people with new senses, and in a way, we'll start using technology to extend our perception of reality. In 2010, with Moon Rivas, we created the Cyborg Foundation to promote the use of technology for this reason, to extend our perception of reality. We strongly believe that if if we start using technology to extend our senses, we'll be able to engage better with Earth and with other animal species. If we compare human senses with other animal senses, humans aren't perceiving much. So we could start using technology to extend our perception at least to the level of other animal species. Cyborg comes from the union between cybernetic and organism. So there's many ways of defining this union between cybernetics and organism. You can find psychological cyborgs, people that feel that they are psychologically united to cybernetics. Most of you are cybernetic organisms, and most of you are psychological cyborgs. You can notice this in language. So people maybe 20 or 15 years ago would say, my mobile phone is running out of battery. Now many people say, I'm running out of battery. So saying I'm running out of battery already shows this type of union between technology and ourselves. We say that we are running out of battery when instead of us running out of battery, it's actually the mobile phone. So using technology in first person is a clear sign of psychological union between cybernetics and humans. The next stage is to have a biological union, which is simply having all this technology biologically united to our bodies. And then there's also the neurological cyborgs, how our brain changes due to cybernetics. So there's three main families in the world of cyborgs, basically. Some of the senses we've been creating is very simple ones. This one is internal radar, so it was used by Moon Ribas for several years. It's simply a chip that is pierced in your ear and that it vibrates whenever there's presence in front of you. So there's infrared that detects movement, and if there's movement, there's a vibration. So you wear this in each ear, and then if someone moves from left to right, you can feel the vibration. So you know something moved from left to right without actually looking at what happened. And then if someone walks the other direction, you also feel it from right to left. Depending on the interval, you can tell what speed this movement went. So if you learn the intervals related to the speed, you can actually sense the exact speed of any movement in front of you. This is practical, but then if you turn around the earrings, that it actually gives you a sense of what's behind you. So it gives you retrovision in a very simple way. With a pair of earrings, you can feel if there's presence behind you. So Moon had it also for several years, and then if I was behind her, she could feel that I was there, even if I was extremely silent, because she would feel the vibration. Or if there's a wall, you can also feel it. So if we all had this, and we wore it for several months, it would change the way we behave. In many cases, if you walk in the street, someone's blocking you, this wouldn't happen anymore. The person would feel that you're behind, so they would move. Also, we would find new sports, because sports are all based on what's in front. You would find new sports created on 360-degree sports, and also dance would also be in 360 degrees. So we would see many changes in the way we behave. The fingerboard is one project we did to a boy that came to the Cyborg Foundation with a bit of a finger missing. So he didn't want to have a normal finger. And we asked him, well, what type of sense would you like to extend? And he wasn't very sure. First, we thought of practical things because he didn't know what sense he wanted. So we said, do you smoke? Because maybe it would be more practical for you to have a lighter instead of a sense, but he doesn't smoke. So now we thought maybe you would like to have the exact sense of weight so that you could feel and know the exact weight of any object. And we were about to create this, but then he said, no, I don't really want to feel the exact weight of objects. So we thought about others, and then in the end, we just added a small camera in his finger, and now he's still thinking on which sense he wants to use it for. But he has a camera that can actually create vibrations depending on the information he wants to receive. He could actually use his finger to sense color in the same way that this works. He could actually feel different vibrations depending on different colors, or he could feel other information through vibrations through his finger. But now he's only using it to take pictures of him, to take pictures of the film. So if he wants to take a picture of his friends, he doesn't need to take out his mobile phone, he uses his hand. Or if he wants to take a selfie, he just uses his hand like this. But the aim is that he will use this finger not for this reason, but to extend his senses, and he's still thinking about it. So you can't really tell when you see him which finger has a camera inside, and it has a small thing that opens and closes so he can charge his hand. So while he's doing other things, he can have his hand charged. Oy. Another sensor that will be out this year is the internal compass. It's a small compass that vibrates whenever you face north. It will be implanted at the bottom of your leg. So there's two types of north, the magnetic north and the true north. One thing is the North Pole, and the other thing is the magnetic north. You'll be able to choose which north you want to sense. Then depending on where you are, you will go around, and when you feel the vibration, you'll know that that's north. If you have this for several months, this will create a sense of orientation that humans don't actually have. We don't have the sense of north. We have to think where the north is. So this will allow us to feel where the north is and then use it to orientate ourselves. This is a first prototype of 3 years ago of 360 perception. So it was basically using what cars have, but as a wearable cap. So then it vibrates depending on the presence, not only behind you, but also if it's here or there. So it gives you a 360-degree perception through vibration. This has now been minimalized, so it can actually, it could be drilled in your bone. So then you have different infrared implants in your bone, and then through vibrations in the bone, like this antenna that vibrates, you would feel presence around you, and it would give you a 360-degree perception of your surroundings. Also, cybernetic eyes for blind people that detect not only colors, but also distance or shapes or even words, so that you can use antennas for other reasons, not only color. What is special with color and blind people is that they learn colors very, very fast. This is an example where in just a minute, this completely blind boy was able to differentiate 3 main colors in just a minute. In just 60 seconds, he was able to differentiate 3 colors. So now he was hearing the frequency of yellow. Here I tricked him and I went back to yellow because I taught him 3 colors, but then I thought, well, I'll go back to yellow. So he was able to distinguish. It's actually different with blind people, because some blind people were able to see color when they were children, so they can actually visualize the color when they hear it. So in my case, I never visualized color, but blind people that were able to see color can actually see the color when they hear it. Also, the earborg is the opposite of this. It's if you transpose a sound to color, so you have a small screen that allows you to see different colors. So if you go to a concert, you can visualize the colors live. So if you're completely deaf, you could also visualize the concert. You could go to a concert hall and visualize the concert through frequencies of color. It detects the dominant frequency of the sound, and it transposes it 40 octaves up, so it becomes a color. And then also with speech can be transposed. So if someone talks to you and you're completely deaf, you can read the lips, and then you can also visualize in what tone the person is speaking at, like this. Another project, which is I have some teeth missing. So I've had some, tooth missing, basically, and I didn't want to have them replaced with normal tooth. So what I created was a small tooth that has light. So in case of total darkness or emergency, I could just click and have emergency light. So this is something that is not cybernetic, not electronic, but very practical. And some animals have bioluminescence, which is the ability to create light in total darkness. So it's a small tooth that actually allows me to have light. But then I had it removed because there was a problem that when I was eating, the light was going on and off all the time. So now we're trying to find a system that can actually work without the clicks. The other tooth is going to be used to actually move my antenna through Bluetooth. So it's going to be a Bluetooth tooth that will allow me to move my antenna independently. So if I want the antenna to move to a side, I'll be using the controls in my tooth. So I'll have 2 different options. But tooth and teeth are one of the most practical ways of extending our senses. We have space here. You can use it through bone conduction, so you can actually extend your hearing through teeth that can actually detect waves that go beyond our hearing. So I'm sure we will be seeing more and more intelligent teeth in the near future. Also, now there's a cyborg sculptures in Barcelona in a museum. There's a sculpture of my head where people can actually go there and put colors under the sculpture, and then they're sent directly to my head. So now, at this precise moment, I am receiving colors from this sculpture because there's people at the museum putting colors underneath the sculpture. So I'm receiving colors live from the museum. So one of the cameras that I said that were in the world. One of them is actually inside this sculpture, and it's a way of interacting with an audience. Then there's also an arm, which is Moon's arm. It's a sculpture that vibrates whenever there's an earthquake in the world, and it's a replica of Moon's real arm. So since, well, I think 3 or 4 years, Moon has a chip in her arm that allows her to feel earthquakes. So whenever there's an earthquake in the world, her arm vibrates. She's connected to seismographs around the world. So if now there's an earthquake in China, she will feel the vibration in her body, and she's in New York. So she's been feeling earthquakes for many years, and now she feels it's normal. But at the beginning, she had to get used to the fact that there's an earthquake every 8 or 10 minutes, and she detects them from 1 in the Richter scale. So her body keeps vibrating in the same way that the world is vibrating as well. She also now has another implant in her other arm that will be connected to moonquakes. So she'll be feeling earthquakes in the left arm and moonquakes in the right arm. There's a seismograph on the moon that actually was, it was Buzz Aldrin who put it there in the 60s, but now it's broken, but now they have a new one. So it's connecting her other arm to the moonquakes. Also, my aim is also space. It's the next stage is to have a permanent connection to space. I've been using internet connection to connect to NASA's International Space Station, so I connect there intermittently since 2014. My aim is to have a permanent connection, 24 hours. Now, my maximum is 2 hours because it's too overwhelming. But if I keep training, I suspect that in 2017, I'll be able to have a permanent connection to space and also a permanent connection to Earth. So it will have stereo inputs. I'll have stereo vision. The antenna will allow me to sense the colors from Earth, and internet connection will solely be used to detect the colors from space. Space has many more colors than Earth, so it's a new world for me. It's overwhelming. This was a live transmission on television where I was playing the colors from space to the audience, so that I was amplifying the colors with a microphone so that the audience could hear them as well. And I've only done 3 public concerts because there's been problems in all of them. The first concert I had to stop because I had headaches of the strong sounds from space. There's lots of ultraviolet, so it's very loud and very high pitched. So I had to stop because I was getting sick. Also, the audience had left because they were sick already. And also, the second concert I had to stop after 10 minutes because someone in the audience had the seismic, seizure. So he started vibrating, and then he fell, and then he had to be taken out with an ambulance. And the third concert was this one on television, and nothing happened, I think. So the next stage is this, the permanent connection to space and the use of the internet as a sensory extension that can actually allow us to sense space. We strongly believe that the internet has to be used as a sense. We've been using the internet as a tool for many decades now, or we should start using it as a way of extending our senses beyond our surroundings. So in a way, if we want to explore space, there's 2 ways. We can actually go there physically, or we can send our senses to space so that we can feel space without having to go there. Now that 3D printing is developing in such a fast speed, there will be a stage where we'll be able to 3D print ourselves with our DNA in other planets and then use the internet to sense our bodies from here. So instead of traveling to Mars, we could actually send a 3D printer there, 3D print ourselves there, and then use the internet as a sensory extension to feel that we are in Mars, and we would feel exactly the same as if we were there. So in a way, we are working on the use of the internet as a sensory extension or as a sense itself. So basically, many people think that becoming a cyborg is not natural and is not good. We receive also many emails from people that are scared that this is dehumanizing us, that if you become a cyborg, you become like a machine. This is completely false. If you become a cyborg, you actually feel closer to other animal species and you become closer to nature and to reality. In my case, since I have an antenna implanted, I feel much closer to insects because we share a body part. I feel closer to dolphins because I also hear through bone conduction like them. I also can feel closer to nature because I sense ultraviolets and infrareds, which are natural colors that exist in our planet. And I feel closer to space because I can sense space in a much more profound way. So I feel much, much more closer to nature now than I did before. And we strongly believe that becoming a cyborg will actually give us a closer relation to this reality. In the case of Moon, she also feels closer to other animal species that can sense earthquakes. She also feels much closer to Earth because she's feeling Earth permanently in her body. And we disagree with all these people that think that becoming a cyborg means that we become more like machines. I don't feel any closer to robots. I feel closer to animals now. So we really encourage people to start thinking about the use of technology in a way that it allows us to extend senses at least to the level of other animal species. Thank you.
Thank you for the great presentation. I just wanted to know, you talked about the fact that you had headaches sometimes. Can you turn this off completely?
No, I decided I would not turn it off. There's no switch. And when you add a new sense, there's either brain rejection or body rejection, or both. And I think that brain rejection can actually be solved by insisting. So I thought that if I insisted and I did not stop the input, the brain would finally get used to it, and it did. And it would with any other case. So the brain is a flexible thing. It's a plastic. It keeps molding itself. So if you insist in having an input, the brain will get used to it. And in my case, it took a long time. But in other cases, it should take less. But yes, there's at the beginning, many people who decide to have a new sense will feel brain rejection first, and maybe they will feel body rejection with the materials. But the body rejection is more difficult than the brain rejection. If there's body rejection, then you need to change the materials. With brain, you can actually maybe modify the input so that maybe it's not so aggressive.
We have a question. Yeah, please.
Hi, hello. Who are the people or the institutions that helped you develop the technologies that you use?
This was with individual people that I kept meeting, and it's never been with a big institution. It's been individual people, and usually students, so young people. And most of the senses we are developing are also with individual people. There's no big companies. There's people that contact, that want to collaborate, and then we collaborate with people that contact us.
Hello. Since you're receiving sounds from the colors from different places in the world, plus you're seeing colors right now, how come you must have thousands of sounds in your head? How is that possible?
Tell us my question. Scared about it.
Well, now I'm sensing the colors here, but if someone sends colors to my head, then this one stops. So I don't have stereo vision yet. So when someone sends colors, then this stops, and then I sense something that is not in front of me. So it switches. But the aim and what I'm training for is to have stereo. So I'll have two channels, one for Earth and one for space. And it will take, that's the same type of training I'm doing. Like in 2004, I had to get used to these colors. Now I have to get used to stereo vision and the fact of sensing space, which is overwhelming. There's lots. The soundscape of space is uncomparable to the colors around us here.
Hi, just one quick question. So you use your device for hearing colors, but can you also use it like to get calls and some other stuff?
Yeah, so the internet connection can allow me to receive any type of sound. So when I first had the internet connection, we tried different things just to try. And we tried the telephone call, so people can call me. They can call in my head. The thing is that I can't reply because there's no microphone. So I can receive one-way calls. And it's strange because then the voice of the person is in your head. So we recorded the first skull-transmitted phone call, and it was weird. It was like having someone in your head that speaks, because bone-conducted sound, inner sound, doesn't have direction. So it's inside. So you would hear the voice of the person inside, and then even if you turn around, you still hear it. So there's no relation between movement and sound. And the thing is that I wasn't able to reply because I didn't have a microphone. But yes, this type of technology could be used for phone calls or for communication through bone. Instead of blocking our ears to have phone calls, we could easily have a bone ear that allows us to just have virtual communication through the internet. So I'm using it for color, but it could be used for many other things.
You showed us the different stage of your antenna. What's the next one?
So the next one is that it will be Bluetooth enabled. So through my Bluetooth, I will be able to control it. So this structure will be cut from so this is now metallic, so it will cut it, and it will be, this cannot be removed, but we can cut the antenna, and then it will have strings, so that depending on the clicks, it will turn left or right. So it will be based on strings that move. Also, it has to be fully submergible, because this year I'm going to be going underwater, so I'll be hearing the colors from under the ocean, and this needs to have some slight changes. But yeah, the main change is that it should move independently. Now I have to move it through my hands, using my hands.
Thank you so much for your presentation. It was really mind-blowing. What I'd like to ask you is, okay, I want to be a little cynical, if you don't mind, because we all look at the good part of this technology. We're all looking at the advantages, the fact that we get closer to animals and everything. But what I want to know is if there are negative uses for this. Obviously, you cannot restrict someone from, using this for the wrong reasons. Do you get like threatening emails or emails which go against what you're doing?
Yes, I get threats and death threats. People that think this is against God. So there's fanatics that think this is completely against their God, and they say they want to kill anyone that supports this, and I'm in this list. But it's people that think that this is against humans and against God. They will. I can't really change their opinion. It's something very personal of their thoughts, and I don't see any negativity because it's very personal. It's about your own perception. It's not about other people. It's about your own perception of reality. And the negative things, I don't think there's any possible negative. Most of the ways technology can be used negatively is when you separate it from yourself. You can see this in the military. They're going the opposite direction. They're trying to separate themselves as much as possible from the technology. So you see drones that are actually separating the soldiers from themselves. So it's a separation of body and technology with their direction, I think. It's not, we're going the opposite direction, which is the union. But anything that we can think of could be used negatively, yes. But like mobile phones, you could use them to communicate, or you can use them to activate bombs. But you can think of this, or knives, cut bread, or kill people. Everything can be used in a good way or a bad way. But this doesn't bring any new threat.
Hello, thank you for your speech. Do you think there is a limit? Because you say that you're feeling closer to animal than that it really extends your senses. But when does it start to begin a threat for humankind and for humanity?
Just to complete these very important questions, do you think that's the next step of transhumanism is what we call it, the posthumanism?
Yeah, I've never felt transhumanist. I felt more posthumanist, because transhumanist feels like a hierarchy. It feels like transhumanists see that transhumans are above humans. I've never seen this at all. I've always seen posthumanism, like forgetting humanism. I don't even like being called human. I like being called an organism, because I feel closer to other animal species and to other living organs if I call myself an organism. So I like being in the same group as other organisms, so I feel comfortable defining myself as a cybernetic organism, not a human. So in a way, the way I talk, I think, fits much more into posthumanism, because posthumanism tries to get over all this humanism thing. It's more about, if you forget humanism and you start focusing on we're in the same level, then you can see things differently. It's not about becoming better. I don't think it's hierarchy. I don't see it as a vertical line. I see it as an horizontal line, and adding new senses will allow us to connect to other animal species in ways that we've never been able to.
We have a few last questions over there.
Hello. First of all, thank you for your amazing speech. I'm here. About using the internet as an extension of your senses, doesn't it raise a major security concern? Because it somewhat means that your sense becomes hackable. Theoretically, someone could send you colors and colors over again and drives you crazy.
Yes, so through all this time, I've only been hacked once. So someone hacked and sent me a color in my head, well, an image in my head, and he was not authorized. So through all this time, it only happened once. It's quite open, people could do it, but it's only happened once. And I actually liked it, so it wasn't an unpleasant feeling being hacked. I actually found it nice, because I received, it's like someone that calls you and they've had the wrong number. It's something like this. This was a voluntary way of entering my head, but it could be used negatively. Yes, someone could start sending colors in the middle of the night and then I wouldn't be able to sleep. So this is a thing that could happen. But for now, the connection to my head is quite open, so I leave it open for people to hack me. There's even, this year, we might do a hackathon where people in the hackathon will try to hack me. So we'll try to find if someone can actually manage to send colors to my head. If it was becoming annoying, then this chip could be actually made more protected. Or if it was really annoying, I can disconnect the internet. I can disconnect this antenna, which can really be hacked, but I could disconnect the internet if it was really annoying.
Maybe the two last questions.
Hi, first, thank you for your presentation. I think your ability to extend your sense is very interesting and amazing. It also reminds me of people who have synesthesia. So for those who don't know, people who have synesthesia, they have mixed senses just naturally. So I wonder, have you ever worked with people with synesthesia? And if you have before, and what happened? Because for example, I'm very interested in if you can see the suns, and some people they're able to see the suns. Are the colors different when different people see the sun?
Yes, because this is a physical transposition of color to sound, and people with synesthesia is very subjective to their own perception. There's never. You'll hardly see ever, I've never seen of any two people with synesthesia with exactly the same color and sound relation. They all have their own color to sound relation, and it's never related to physics. But synesthesia is the union of senses. This is the creation of a new sense. This is not a union of two senses, because I never see color. So to me, the vibration in my head is not an existing sense, it's a new sense. I didn't have a vibration in my head that allowed me to actually sense color, so it's a new sense. Also, if I was deaf or blind, I could still perceive color through the vibrations of my head. So the vibrations in my head actually allow me to hear color, but hearing color is the secondary effect of this new sense, which is this vibration in the skull. So I don't see it as synesthesia, but as a new sense.
The last question?
Hi, thank you for your intervention. I wanted to know how can you make the difference between the provenance of the color. For example, the sound of the color from Barcelona and the color right now. How can you know? How can you make the difference?
So if I receive colors from somewhere else, usually it sounds very different from the context I'm in. So if someone now sends me colors from Barcelona, it will most probably not be the color that I'm hearing now. It will be different. And also, if they usually send a series of colors, so it's it won't make any sense. No, I can feel the difference. But there could be a moment where if they send exactly the same colors I'm hearing here, then I wouldn't know that it's actually arriving from Barcelona.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no alarm or there's no sign to know that I'm receiving colors from outside.
Neil Harbisson, thank you very, very, very
much.
much.
Thank you.
That was a very great honor to receive you at ESSEC.